I think we just started, right? This is the beginning of it. So, welcome. And I see Jalen Brown on here. He's someone we've been on calls before as well. So it's going to be fun. Today, we're going to talk about how to launch a fund without working on Wall Street for 20 plus years or having an Ivy League degree. Now, Bridger, what is a fund? Why would I want to launch one? Why would I want to put one together? How can this help me? And anyways, we're going to dive into all of that. But to just kick things off real quick, in the chat, I need a little engagement. Let me know where you guys are calling from real quick. I want to hear in the chat, where are people calling from? I know I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. And I just want to say, if I am from Salt Lake City, Utah, and able to start a fund, raise millions of dollars, you can do it pretty much wherever you're at. Like I'm in this, Salt Lake City's kind of off the roadmap for most people. And I see Orlando, Dance from Orlando, Eric.
Chicago.
Hey guys. Hello. Texas, Austin, Texas, Fort Worth. Wow. A lot of Texas, Tampa, Florida, Trinidad and Tobago, Cape Cod, Maryland, Tyler, Texas. Good morning from Phoenix. Did some schooling in Salt Lake City. Awesome. I want to make this interactive. I want to have fun. I want to do this kind of stuff. So now real quick, one more just poll. I want to see who we're dealing with today. Tell me what industry and what you're in right now. And if it's hard to say that, but just give me an industry real quick. If you put it in one on the chat, what are you in? What are you working in right now? Just to help me see where you guys are at. Dan, real estate developer. Eric, multifamily value add syndication, real estate, commercial real estate broker, investor, multifamily. Okay, multifamily. Okay, a lot of multifamily insurance. Perfect. Boom, baby. This is going to be the perfect scenario for everybody here. Multifamily development. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to make this interactive. I want to actually answer questions as we go. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. I'll even bring you on live, whatever. And I know at the end we have questions as well. So this should be fun. So with that, let's get into this. Type a 1 in the chat if you guys are ready to get going. We'll talk about this. I'm going to share my screen real quick. So today I'm going to try to talk fast. You can tell I don't like to talk slow and methodical. I'm like, boom, baby. Let's get into stuff. So let me just share my screen real quick. We'll go back and forth. But today we're going to talk about how to launch a fund without working on Wall Street for 20 plus years or having an Ivy League degree. Now I'm going to bounce back and forth between a lot of stuff, but this is me on the left. My name is Bridger Pennington. I'll talk about I don't need to go through all my accolades and stuff, but I want to just share a few things. Number one, this person on the right, this is actually my dad. And I'm going to tell more about this story, but my dad is actually the co-founder of a $26 billion family of funds. Okay. Primarily in multifamily. That's 10 times bigger than Cardone Capital is how big their investment funds are. They just went public a few weeks ago on the New York Stock Exchange. Incredible what they've been able to do. And a lot of stuff I'm sharing with you guys, I've learned from him. And now my name is Bridger. Like they said in the intro, I've deployed millions of dollars in my funds. We've launched 2 funds, working on a 3rd fund right now. We're actually doing big box conversion. I know a lot of you guys are in real estate. We're converting big boxes. We've already soft raised 18 million, looking to raise $50 million in our fund. I'll talk more about what a fund is, how that works. And by the way, after I'm done, my brother is actually going to come on. My brother is a securities attorney and actually just launched his own fund. They're raising, I believe, 250 million in RV parks. They've already raised, I believe, 45 million in that. Really cool what they've been able to do and get into. Now, before we go any further, just by disclaimer, okay? So what we're sharing is my personal opinion, all right? This is not financial, legal advice, all that kind of stuff. Everyone put your right arm in the air with me. Do it with me. Say it with me. I am disclaimed. All right. I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm just going to tell you what's worked for me. I love this. Probably one of the best memes and gifts of all time. What are you? I'm an idiot sandwich. He's got 2 pieces of bread on her ears. So anyways, that's what we're going to get into today. As you guys know, times are changing, right? We live in a very interesting time of economics. We can talk more about this, but the amount of money printing that's going on, the world has shifted in radical ways, or since COVID, even before COVID. Interest rates are pretty much I actually had a guy on my show. He dated back 8,000 years of interest rates. And right now we have the lowest interest rates in 8,000 years that they have recorded history on interest rates. Times are changing. Millions are unemployed or didn't have a job, or their jobs are changing. Winter is coming. You guys know this, right? We're all in season. So how do we prepare for this? How do we get into this? And that's what we're going to talk about today. The world of funds, how this works. So Today, we're going to talk about how I was able to start 2 funds in my 20s, deploying millions of dollars without, number 1, a track record, number 2, working on Wall Street, and number 3, some fancy Ivy League degree. And I want to show you guys how to do this through the fund launch formula. Does that sound good? Type a 2 in the chat if you guys are interested, want to get moving into that. Does that sound fair enough? We can start talking about this kind of stuff. Again, I want to keep this interactive. I want to help you guys out and help you think through what this is. Now, I've thrown around a lot of, name funds, all this kind of stuff. Bridger, what is this? What are you guys doing? Why, like what's going on? Okay. So let me share I'm going to share another screen here and draw this out for you. So what is a fund? Now we're talking about the world of funds here. Give me a second here. Let me know if this works. Investment funds have created more wealth than pretty much any other vehicle in the world. If you talk about vehicles of making money, you could be you could be a stockbroker, real estate agent. There's a lot of vehicles you can choose in life. Investment funds have created more wealth than pretty much anything in the world. And I'll give you a few examples. Anybody been following AMC, GameStop? Anybody followed that trend the last little bit? So you have AMC, GameStop, and a lot of them, they believe there's a big short position on them. And that short position is done by Citadel. Okay. Citadel is a hedge fund. I'll talk about what a hedge fund is in a second. Their founder is named Ken Griffin. Okay. Ken Griffin. I'm sorry, it's hard to talk and type or talk and write at the same time. Okay. Ken Griffin, he runs this fund. Take a guess on how much money he makes a month. Okay. Ken Griffin, he runs Citadel. Citadel is a massive hedge fund. They manage about 30 billion in clients funds, about 250 billion AUM. Ken Griffin, every month from his fund. Okay. This is not like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, like their stock price goes up. Their net worth is now higher, than their stock price falls, and their net worth is lower, and they kind of go up and down, and they fluctuate, billions of dollars at a time. I'm not talking about net worth. I'm talking about income from his fund. Ken Griffin makes $100 million a month from his fund. 100 million a month. This is not personal investments. This isn't net worth. This isn't stock price. This is income from his fund. Okay, that's what we're talking about today in the world of funds, about what's going on. I don't even know what I would do with $100 million a month. Like, I don't even know how to even deploy that. You need a whole team to be able to deploy that. Again, every month you got a new bag of money coming in. That's insane. Okay. And if you look at the Forbes 100 list, it is riddled with fund managers, people running funds. So anyways, we're going to talk about this more, but Bridger, okay, I'm talking too fast here. What is a fund? Let's just set the groundwork. What am I talking about? What is this crazy world of private equity, of hedge funds, of venture capital, of debt funds? Okay. In the most basic sense, I'm going to go basic here, and we're going to go advanced and stuff. We'll answer questions, whatever. But in the most basic sense, all a fund is, and by the way, I study funds for a living. We teach people how to do funds, all this kind of stuff. I'll talk about in a second. All a fund is simply a pool of money. Okay. Investors over here, I'll do little money signs. Investors dump money into this pool. And then us as fund managers or syndicators, right? We can draw from this pool. We go make investments. We buy assets or make investments or issue debt, whatever it is. Whenever those investments make money, it flows back to the pool and it gets split between the investors and the fund manager. It's pretty simple, right? That's it. That's all a fund really is. Anybody been doing some of these before? Type like a yes in the chat if you've done a few of these types of deals before. I'm sure you have. If you guys are, a lot of you guys are in multifamily. This is like the oldest thing in the book is, hey, let's find some investors. Let's pool some money together. Let's go make an investment. And when the investment makes money, let's split it. It's not that complicated. Okay. So this is the world. I'll keep just scrolling down here. This is the world of private equity. Okay. Of venture capital. These actually aren't, they sound some complex of, man, like hedge funds, right? What are they actually doing? It sounds so secretive. Debt funds, real estate funds. Guess what? They're all structured pretty much exactly the same. And as you guys know, in finance, people, they love to make up fancy terminology to make everyone confused. That's actually not that complex. This is all they're doing. The only difference is what they invest into. If you're with me, if you're following along, type yes in the chat, okay? It's just what they invest into. So private equity, all private equity is again, it's a pool of money, but they invest into private companies. That's it, okay? So there's an example on Wall Street. There's a company called Sycamore Partners. They bought Nine West Shoes. They bought Aeropostale. They bought Staples. And last year they were trying to buy Victoria's Secret. That is a private equity firm. There's also smaller private equity. We work with some people right now. They go out and buy restaurants. So like local restaurants, they'll go buy up these local restaurants and they group them together. They're buying private businesses with their pool of money. Venture capital. Okay. Anybody seen Shark Tank? I love Shark Tank. I think it's like one of the funnest shows online. Shark Tank is an example of venture capital. Same. And these guys, they don't need investors. They use their own money, but venture capitalists will do the same thing. They have a pool of money, either way, whether it's their own pool or investor pool, and they go invest into startup companies. Okay. Same exact pool. Hedge funds. All a hedge fund is they invest into public companies. So a hedge fund will trade like public stocks. The S&P 500, they'll trade cryptocurrency, Forex, futures, commodities, anything public they can trade. Debt funds, they issue loans. Same exact pool of money. They're all structured the same. Real estate funds, take a wild guess what they invest into. They invest into real estate, obviously, right? Like my dad's fund, a lot of you guys, real estate fund, they're up to $26 billion that they invest into real estate primarily. Again, the pool is exactly the same. It's actually not that complex. And so anybody following along, type a yes in the chat if you guys are following along a little bit. If that makes a little bit of umph there. All right. That's what we're talking about, the world of funds. This little simple model right here has created more wealth than pretty much anything on the planet. Now, today I'm going to walk through with you guys how to get into funds, how to start one, how to raise capital. I know you're asking questions. How do I even get into this? Right. And I'll tell you my story a little bit, how I got introduced to funds and how we got into this, but that's the world we're playing in. We started a few years ago, a group called Investment Fund Secrets online. This is a group to group together regular people like me and you that are going out and launching funds. And we started this group because myself, my dad, and my brother had so many people asking us, how do I start a fund? How did you guys do this? How did you start 2 funds in your 20s? How'd your dad do these funds? How'd your brother do these funds? So we decided to put together online content and bring people together. We've got now over 3,000 students in our programs that we're helping launch funds. We have one fund, hedge fund, they have raised over $700 million in the last 14 months. They have a hedge fund. We have 2 funds in real estate that are approaching $100 million. We have a fund out of the United Kingdom. They've raised $50 million. And then a number of other funds that are between $10 million and about $40 million we've helped launch. Every fund that gets over $10 million, we actually give them a custom pair of shoes. So we actually, can you guys see that okay? Is that working? We actually give them a custom pair of shoes here. And we have an artist come through and draw like their logo and name and stuff on here. And we've given out, and then we give them a floating shoe display case. So you see that floating shoe in the background. Hopefully it's not distracting you, but the shoe will float. And we've given out to a bunch of people. Jalen Brown's going to get one pretty soon. I see Jalen on here as well. That's what we do. So with that being said, you guys want to learn about funds? How funds work, how to put one together? Yeah, sound good? Type in booyah in the chat if you guys are ready to get going. And let's get into this. So today, actually, let me pull up my screen again. I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around here. We're going to go through all of the 3 secrets we're going to go through today. Right here is, if we have time, is how to break out of the syndication loop to the fund level. We're going to talk about the secret structure of a $20 billion fund that you can implement. And then 3, I'm going to tell you how I ethically steal my competitors' investors using the fund launch formula. Okay. So with that, let's dive into it. So I was, just to give you guys a little bit of background, growing up, you guys might say, well, Bridget, you had a really rich dad and your dad was, obviously tell you about this stuff. That wasn't the case growing up. And my brother might echo this when he comes on in just a few minutes. Growing up, I grew up in a very entrepreneurial household, you could call it. My dad drove a car with 300,000 miles on it. He was always starting businesses and I never knew what he exactly did. However, I set a goal when I left high school, I went to college. I set a goal that I wanted to be a millionaire as quickly as possible. And I wanted to be a millionaire by 30 and I wanted to run all these businesses. So I decided that I was going to start businesses. And by the way, I didn't want to be a millionaire just so that I could drive Lambos or Ferrari, something crazy like that. I wanted to be a millionaire because I wanted to be the type of person that could hire friends and family that are struggling with jobs. I wanted to be the type of person that could provide if my, aunt or grandma gets sick and we need to find a hospital with a doctor and everyone's worried about medical bills, that I could just step in and pay the medical bill. Or if I could pay off my buddy's mortgage for him. That's the type of person I wanted to be. And I thought the only way to get there was to be successful myself first. Anybody following along with me? Say aye if you're following along a little bit on that dream and mission. Yeah, the money's nice and it's fun, but also the impact that you can create. And so I got into college, and my first 2 years of college, I went after it. I started 6 businesses my first 2 years of college, and not just business ideas. I was actually like 6 businesses that were up and running, starting and growing. We did Chinese tutoring. I had 6 tutors I had hired that were scaling and doing all that. We had, I did a Forex trading. We built websites for people. I wholesaled 2 houses. I mean, we did like any business on YouTube that I could find. I tried it. Like anybody on the YouTube, like, how do I make money online? I tried them. And so finally my dad, you'll hear about him in a minute, but the greatest mentor ever, grabs him by the ears. And he goes, Bridger, you're kind of like a chicken with your head cut off. And he goes, I want you to go meet with one of my business partners. I think this guy can really help you out. So I said, okay, like what? I'll go meet with whoever, if that's fine. So he gives me the address. We set up this appointment. And I start to drive to this guy's house, and I pull up through this gated community. This gate pulls up. I'm like, like this is a pretty nice area. I mean, who's my dad's business partner? I pull around, I pull through this waving hills, and I come up on top of this hill to this beautiful cul-de-sac. And there's this gorgeous, gorgeous white home that almost encompasses the entire cul-de-sac. I park my car, I look at my phone, and I kind of double check the address. Like, is this actually it? Like, who's my dad's business partner? Who is this guy? This is a huge mansion, right? I get out of my car and I go knock on the door, and I'm a little nervous. Like a butler is going to come and be like, be gone, peasant, like get out of here. Right. I knock on the door, a little nervous. And thankfully my dad's business partner answers the door. He goes, Bridger, come on in. And he welcomes me into this house, and I walk in, there's the wine cellar and the grand piano and the basketball court in the basement, the pool in the backyard, the car. I mean, he's got everything, right? We sit down on these big white couches and we start to talk, and we start chit-chatting about life and everything. And I finally ask him this question. I go, how did you get all of this? And I kind of point to everything. Like, how did you do this? And he goes, Bridger, it's funny. Not a lot of very few people ask me that question. And I go, oh, shoot, sorry. That was like pretty much the only question I had was, how did you do this? And he goes, no, it's fine. I'm like, I don't know if you're not supposed to ask rich people that question, but I'm like, that's the one question I had was, how did you do this? And how can I do the same thing? And he goes, Bridger, let me tell you, he goes, when I was in my 20s, I was a lot like you. He goes, I started a bunch of businesses. I actually had moderate success, but then he goes, then I figured out the secrets of the ultra wealthy. And he goes, the ultra wealthy families of the world, this is what they do. They have their kids and they tutor them, whatever. They make sure their kids go to the best universities. And sometimes they cheat to get them in. We've seen that in the past, a little bit, the past few years. They cheat to get them in these great schools or get them in these great schools. They then want their kids to go work on Wall Street, go work in the industries are private equity, hedge funds, consulting, or come back home and run the family office, which is another type of a fund. And he goes, I met a gentleman a few years ago that was running a private equity fund. He's one of the wealthiest people I'd ever met in my entire life. And he goes, at that moment, I said, I don't care how long it takes me. I don't care if it takes me 1 year, 5 years, or 20 years. I was going to figure out what a fund was, how to start one, and how to scale one. So he goes, that's exactly what we did. And he goes, me and your dad, we started a fund. And he goes, at the time, they were managing just over $8 billion of real estate. And I was blown away, and I was very intrigued. And I've always heard, anybody else heard this? You always got to find a mentor, right? Find mentors. I said, hey, I'm going to find a mentor. I said, hey, can you be my mentor? I'd love for you to teach me and coach me and help me. And he goes, Bridger, go talk to your dad, because your dad knows way more about this than I do. I said, no way. My dad's poor. He drives a crappy car. You're obviously rich. Like, I want to learn from you. And he goes, Bridger, I'm sorry to break it to you, but he goes, me and your dad make about the same amount of money. And at that moment, my chin about dropped to the floor. I was like, huh? Come again? He's like, yeah, I mean, me and your dad are pretty much equal business partners. So I left this dude's house. I drove straight to my dad's house. I was like, Dad, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Like, you're making all this money. Like, why haven't I been able to order a soda at Chipotle for the past 5 years? Because it's too expensive. But yet you're making all this dough. Like, what's going on? And anyways, he kind of calms me down. He goes, Bridger, he goes, yeah, we're doing decently well. He goes, I like to save and invest my money. My partner likes to spend his money, but yeah, this is what we're doing. And so we sat down for the next 8 months and he started to teach me about funds, how funds worked, how they're put together and how they're structured. And actually, we'll break from the surface. I actually want to share with you what he taught me about how funds are put together and run and in here. So let me share my whiteboard again. You guys want to learn about how funds are put together? And we'll talk about basic funds all the way up to a $20 billion fund and how they work and pros and cons, the whole thing. Okay. So let me, I'm sharing my screen here. Let's get into it. So he sits me now. He goes, Bridger, let's talk through funds. Let's talk through structure. And see this. And every Sunday I'd drive over to his house and we'd sit down and talk funds. Now, remember before I talked about this pool of money right here, right? And by the way, if you guys want these show notes after today, I can send them to you. And also we have a free course on funds. At the end, I'll drop we have a whole course on funds. Anyways, I'm not able to cover everything today. That's what I'll give you guys at the end. Okay. So this pool, right? How is it structured? So now I'm going to explain to you guys how I would say 95% of all private money is raised in the world. Okay. I'm going to explain this to you. All private money, 95% of all, and this is billions and billions and billions of dollars, is raised through this one little structure. And this is how they do it. Okay. Now, I mentioned that earlier, that pool of money, okay, in 95%. Now, I know there's other examples, but this is the most common, is called a limited partnership. Okay. A limited partnership. Okay. This is your pool of money or the fund. Okay. And what'll happen is this is the limited partnership, the entity, and limited partners or investors. Like I said before, right? We had investors. Here's the money. Investors or limited partners will put money into this fund. Okay. They'll put money into this pool. They'll invest here. We got some other people over here. They're all putting money in. You then will set up over here what's called a general partner. Okay. General partner is you and your team. This is, again, up here, the fund manager person. Okay. This is you and your team. This is the team, the hero team. I usually pull up superheroes. Okay. This is like you guys and your dream team. The general partner here manages what goes on in the limited partnership. All right. So they put money in, they have a pool of money. Now the general partner can decide. A lot of you guys I know are doing multifamily. So you can go down here and now buy multifamily. All right. You buy some multifamily real estate. When that real estate does well, you send it back here and then it gets split again between the limited partners and the general partner. Okay. Is that making sense? You guys following along a little bit? So now there are two main documents that govern this fund. They're called the LPA and PPM. Now, these documents each are about 100 pages each. They're thick, 100 pages each. They're huge. These are massive, thick legal documents, and they describe all the rules and regulations of the fund. We call them the Bible. Okay. LPA stands for Limited Partnership Agreement. PPM stands for Private Placement Memorandum. We call this the Bible, right? And the reason we call it the Bible is because it's all the rules, covenants of the fund. And the best part, this is the best part about funds, is you get to write the Bible. You get to write the rules for your fund. You get to decide what goes in the Bible. Now, yes, there's a few things you got to follow the SEC, but generally in funds, you can decide, hey, okay, we're going to buy multifamily and we're going to hold the multifamily for, an average of 12 to maybe 36 months. And then we're going to dispose of it and we're going to pay limited partners X. We're going to pay general partner Y, and you split that up. You get to write the rules of the Bible. Imagine like the Bible, literally the Bible, like religion, Christianity. If you were able to write the 10 commandments, if you're able to write the laws of there. Now, once they're written, you got to stick to them, right? You got to follow your own rules. You can't break your own rules, but you get to write the Bible. So you can also say, hey, minimum investment size is $100,000. You write that into your Bible. Okay, minimum investment size, $100,000. And that goes into your rules. Okay, that's an example. Now, Bridger, I want to ask, I saw some people raising their hands. I'll probably answer some questions, but why would I do a fund? Okay. Why do a fund versus what I'm already doing? Does anybody have that question? Like, why a fund? Why do people do funds? What's the benefit of it? Okay. So back to the whiteboard, baby. Let's scroll down. Okay. So that's a fund. Let me talk through a little bit for a second about a typical scenario for real estate. And by the way, a lot of people doing real estate in here, right? So we'll use real estate as an example. Now this is going to be a generic example. Obviously we're going to choose round numbers here, but let's use a house flipper, for example. And actually, this is actually a true story. One of our guys in our group, his name's Brent Mott. Okay. Brent, awesome dude, comes to me and he flipped about 2 to 3 houses a year. Okay. And the way he would do it was this, and this is how most house flippers do it. You find a house, right? Here's our beautiful little house. You then need to get money to acquire the house. So you either find money, either you have the money, you find investors, you use hard money, which is like, a loan from usually kind of a, higher terms, or use a bank. Was that fair enough? You guys with me so far? Type yes in the chat if you guys are following along so far. Okay. If that makes sense. And I would say this is there's other little things you can do, but yes, this is kind of a typical way to do it. What they'll do then is they'll negotiate with these investors, all this kind of stuff. Okay, I'm either going to use hard money or probably a mix of these. They then would go set up an LLC. The investors and the money would be put into the LLC. They'd acquire the house. They would then flip the house. I'll just write flip here, whatever that means. And then, they whatever fix and flip. We all see the TV shows. And when the flip is done, they then pay the money back. They pay their investors back or hard money, and then they take a little bit of a split and then they restart. Does that sound fair enough? A decent life cycle of this. Now, I call this category right here, I call it a syndication. They are syndicating money from hard money lenders, banks, private investors, or themselves. They're syndicating it in an LLC, or investors are investing directly into the property. And then they just start over. And I call this a syndication loop, because guess what happens? They start again. They find another house. They go back to the hard money, and they got to renegotiate now. And they got to, talk to the investors. And sometimes investors, they want to change the terms up, or this time, oh, sorry, Bridger, I don't have the money. Anybody had that happen before? Okay. You got to renegotiate and you do this thing. So Brent, we came to us, he was doing about 2 to 3 houses a year. We talked to him. We set up a fund. This year, Brent is flipping 72 homes. Anyone want to learn how he did that? He went from 2 to 3 homes a year to 72 homes this year. I think, by the way, he's on track to do that. He might do more than 72 homes this year. Why? Because he used a fund. So let me walk you through what a fund would look like. Okay. So here, same strategy, right? Flipping houses. In a fund though, instead of every time trying to re-raise money, you raise capital once from investors. So instead of doing this loop, he came over here, he set up a fund. And what I mentioned before, a limited partnership, a general partnership, I'll just write fund here. He had an LPA PPM. He raised about $5 million once from investors. 5 million one time, put it into the pool. The money came into the pool. And now he goes out and he's flipping 72 homes. Imagine, for people that are doing real estate, imagine how much more power you would have at an auction or a bid if you're showing up to a seller and saying, hey, I can, because a lot of this time period sometimes takes, 10 days to maybe 60 days, right? And sometimes you lose deals because you're trying to get money together. Investors are pulling out. Imagine how much power you would have if you showed up to a seller and you said, hey, I've already got a $5 million pool sitting right here. Here's my bank statement. I've got proof of funds. I can transact tomorrow. Do you want to give me the property or not? So Brent found he was winning properties over others because he had proof of funds. He could close faster. And because of this, also, he could get better terms with the bank. He could use this 5 million and get better lines of credit, better leverage with a bank, and lower cost of capital. Does that make you guys following along so far? Is that making a little bit of sense? Okay. So 72 homes in this model. Now, additionally, most guys that we help out don't stay in the single family realm because this is scale, right? And the thing about funds, if I could just anchor anything in your head. The reason you do have a fund is to scale. The reason most people that are successful in finance and successful in investing end up running a fund is because of scale. And I'll walk through a few more pros and cons of protection and liability, that kind of stuff as well, that you get from funds, but is scale. Because like for anybody in single family real estate, type like single family. If you guys are in single family real estate in the chat, I want to see who's in the on single family. If you're in single family, you know, right now there's a lot of bidders. You show up to any property, and most people that are in that game can pull together a couple $100,000. They can grab their grandma and their buddy from high school, and they can grab $300,000 together and flip a single family house. A lot of bidders, right? How many people can go do a $35 million apartment building? A little bit less, right? And so when you get in a fund, you can scale and bid on bigger projects. Everyone can bid on a single family home. Very few people can bid on a $35 million apartment complex. And so what happens is you start, because there's less bidders, supply and demand, you can get better deals. And right now, you guys know your markets and every market's different, but I've heard it's very hard to win a good single family property right now. It's a little bit easier, still hard. Cap rates are compressed right now. A little bit easier though to win a $35 million bid on an apartment complex, especially if you have a good team behind you. Is that making sense? You guys following along? The ability to scale. Additionally, I mentioned this earlier, is the liability. Okay, let's talk about this for just 1 second here. Liability. In a syndication loop here, what a lot of people have worked with, you've got private investors in here, you got hard money all on, and sometimes you're business partners with them on the deal essentially. And I actually had actually one of my dad's funds. They had a partner on a syndication. This is before they had funds. They were doing hard money loans, all this kind of stuff, and flipping things. They had a partner who hadn't paid taxes, and calls him up and says, "Oh, John, hey, we haven't paid taxes on the thing. I know the property, you're still working on it, but can you sell it early? We need to get paid out early because we forgot to pay taxes last year." And they put a lot of pressure on the flip to sell earlier, to fire sell. And it's their biggest investor in a syndication. They're like, shoot, what do we do? And they decided to get out of the property and sell because this investor was putting so much pressure on them, right? And they potentially lost out on hundreds of thousands of dollars because the investor had teeth and they could pressure them into doing something. They could push the thing. In a fund, that's not the case. In a fund, you have, again, your Bible up here, right? And if this is the reason that I'll scroll down a little bit, 8 people on Wall Street can manage billions of dollars, let's say $10 billion. Okay. And one of their biggest investors comes to them. One of their investors giving them $100 million. And they say, Bridger, hey, we got a tax liability. Can you sell some of the properties and kind of get our money out and help us out a little bit? In a fund, guess what you say? No, the properties are not ready to sell yet. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you messed up your taxes, but these properties are not seasoned. I do not serve you. In a fund, the general partner does not serve individual investors. The general partner serves the fund. The fund is the client. That's who your fiduciary responsibility is to, is the fund. And so to that investor, you just say tough. Anybody seen The Big Short, the movie The Big Short? Type in like yes in the chat if you guys have seen The Big Short. I love The Big Short. It's a great movie. A lot of language. You got to watch it clean maybe or whatever. But there's a great scene in The Big Short. One of the hedge fund managers in there is named Michael Burry. He's played by Christian Bale. He's got like a glass eye, kind of an interesting dude. And there's a great scene that epitomizes this perfectly. So Michael Burry's in there. He's in his office. Their fund is down 30. I think it's like 36%. He has it on the whiteboard. They're losing money like crazy. Okay. And because they're holding a short position on the housing market in 2006. And every month he is paying millions of dollars in premiums to hold his short position. These banks are just taking the money like this is the easiest money we've ever made. And one of Michael's biggest investors stomps into his office. And he comes in, there's this great scene. He yells at Michael. He's like, you need to sell. He's like, sell, get out. And Michael just goes, no. He goes, the market's going to crash. He goes, it might take longer than we thought, but the market's going to crash. And the investor's yelling at him. He just says tough. And the investor has to leave, has no teeth on them. That epitomizes the beauty of funds. So back to the, pros and cons. Syndications are great to just get started, to get your feet under your web. But if you're trying to scale, if you're trying to grow, a fund, number one, allows you to scale. It gives you a big chunk of change to get into bigger properties, bigger deals, and it gives you protection from all your investors and the liability there. Doesn't that sound awesome? Who would love to now be in a fund? Now anybody like, okay, I didn't know what a fund was or kind of new. Anybody want to be in a fund now? Type yes in the chat if you're like, I'm warming up to this idea. Okay. So you're kind of following along. So Bridger, okay, how do you now get in a fund? Let's talk more like practical stuff. I know we got a few more minutes. And by the way, Valerie, cut me off if I'm going too long. Like, give me like the hook. Okay. Just hit the mute button if I'm talking too much. All right. So let's talk about the actual mechanics of getting a fund. Now, I want to take you back to my story. I mentioned I found out, I didn't know my dad was rich. I found out he was rich. He started to teach me this kind of stuff. Okay. And so we would sit on a whiteboard just like this. He would type me everything, write it all out. And something funny happened to me. Anybody follow Tony Robbins? I love Tony Robbins. He's amazing. He mentions this little thing in your brain called the EAS. Okay. The EAS system is in your brain. It identifies things to focus on. And we all know this, right? Whatever you focus on, you start to see in the world. And it's just, for example, if you're going to buy a brand new car, let's call it a new Audi. My business partner bought a new Audi a little bit ago. When he bought that car, was looking at those cars, guess what? I started to see Audis everywhere. Anybody else have this thing happen? And it's not like there's more Audis all of a sudden on the road. It's the fact that you start to pay attention to it. The same thing happened for me with funds. I started to learn about funds first. I first learned, and then about 8 months later, I was actually working at a company, and I'm 22 years old at the time. I'm working at this company, and I thought there would be a great idea for a fund inside of this company. I was an intern there, and I thought, oh my gosh, we could lend money to people that are coming, these business owners, and they need little loans. I talked to the owners of the business. He thought the idea was great. I talked to my dad. He thought the idea was great. And I was so excited. We put together this little fund. My dad helped me think through it. And we put together this whole little thing. And I was so excited. We're going to do this little fund. And I thought, oh shoot, crap. And for whatever reason, I overlooked raising capital. Like the one thing you need for a fund is money, right? Like that's like the thesis of a fund is you need capital. And so I was sitting there, I'm 22 years old. I'm like, crap, how am I going to raise money? And I go, well, shoot, my dad is rich. He doesn't spend his money. He would love to invest. Like my dad would probably love to invest in my fund, right? This would be a perfect fit. So I remember I'm 22 years old. I walk in, it was a late Sunday night. I walk into my dad's office and I knock on the door and he's, it's his home office. He's kind of working on something. I go, hey dad, how's it going? He goes, hey, come on in. And I go, Dad, I want to thank you so much. Cause he really did. He helped me think through the fund, the mechanics of a fund and how they work and taught me all this stuff. I said, I really want to thank you so much for teaching me about funds. And I said, as you know we're getting this fund launched. And I said, Dad, in my best pitch voice possible, I went, Dad, how would you like to be our first investor into our fund? And I kind of did my hand just like that too, like, how would you like to be in our fund? And my dad kind of laughed and he goes, Bridger, he goes, I have the money to invest. He goes, but if I invest in your fund, I would ruin the experience of you raising money on your own. And he said, no. He said, your first investor is your hardest investor to find. And if I invest in your fund, this will be a crutch that you'll never be able to recover from. And he said, no. And he kicked me out of his office. He said, you need to go learn this on your own. And I kind of walked out of his office with my tail between my legs a little bit. Tough love moment between my dad and me. And I went out and I took him up on the challenge. I went and hit the streets and I raised a whopping $49,500 for my first little micro teeny fund. And I know some of you guys are like, that's teeny. And it was teeny, but it was enough to get started. I was 22 years old. I was so excited. We raised it from like 7 investors that all gave me like $5,000, like as like, just, whatever, we'll see what happens. And I was so excited. We put together this little $49,000 fund. We structured it and we launched our fund. And our first group of investors, we got them back a 64% return. It was incredible. Now, small dollar amounts, but big, a big, decent return. We closed that first one. We launched a second one. We said, okay, we have proof of concept. Let's now scale this thing. The second fund, we raised and deployed millions of dollars out of that fund. We did, like they said before, 300 plus deals out of that fund. Did really, really well. And then just barely, I just sold that fund. We had a competitor come and buy us out. And now we're launching a new real estate fund and all that kind of stuff like I mentioned earlier. So it was incredible. And running, the world of funds, it opened my eyes up to, this is possible. You can do this. Regular people, me, 22 years old, could go out and do this. So let's dive into it. And since then, we've started investment fund series. Like I mentioned earlier, we have people that we come in and help teach and coach to launch and scale funds. And we found this formula, and we almost discovered, it's not like we discovered this formula because I started to bring on, we have a podcast and a show. We started to bring on people to our show that would teach funds and how they started their fund. And it was funny. I started to recognize this pattern. And there was usually a 4-step pattern that all of these people followed to launch their fund. And so after a little bit talking to my dad and my brother, we coined this together. We call it the fund launch formula. This is a 4-step formula designed to help you launch and scale your fund. Okay. Now, this is different than if you read a blog online or the Wall Street guys, they will teach you an opposite formula. And the formula I'm about to explain to you guys is for entrepreneurs, is for people like me and you that we are frugal with our money. We want to make sure we're launched correctly. Is this the 4-step formula? This is a way to get over track record, a way to get over all that kind of stuff is in here. Sound good? And I know I see somebody asking about track record in here. Yeah, we're going to talk about all that right now. You guys ready to get into it? So with that, type a yes in the chat. Let's get into the 4-step formula. Here, if you guys want to learn that. Does that sound cool? All right, let me pull it open for you. Actually, I'm going to share my screen here. Let's go through. I got some slides here. Actually, this will be perfect. So here it is, baby. Let me share my screen. We're going to talk about how I ethically steal my investors through the fund launch formula. Okay. So, but Bridger, wait, no one will invest in me, right? I don't have a track record. I don't have that was one of my biggest questions. Who would believe in me? Okay. And we'll get it to a second, but I always thought I'm too young at the time. I'm 22 years old. I'm way too young. No one invests in me. I'm too inexperienced. I don't know anyone with money. I don't have an Ivy League degree, and I don't have a front tooth. That some of you guys know at the time I was playing basketball with some friends, and my front tooth got knocked out playing basketball. Both my front teeth at the time I was trying to go out and raise money. And actually I did a lot of the stuff on phone calls because of this. Okay. And this is actually a picture. Literally the front tooth got knocked. This is bad news. Okay. Anybody have some of these concerns though? Like, I don't know if this is going to be right for me. Okay. I had an incredible mentor teach me this one principle. And he said, Bridger, lean into your constraints. Use your constraints to your advantage. So what I started to do when I would pitch investors is I would play to my weakness of being too young. I would middle of the pitch with an investor. I'd say, now I know that, like, literally if I was pitching you, I'd say, hey, before we go any further, I know you think I'm too young to be in front of you right now. And they, like, 9 times out of 10, they'd nod their head like, yep, yeah, you're a little too young to be here. I said, let me explain to you why that plays to my advantage. Okay. And I would say, because I'm young, I'm not going to, I didn't explain this to you guys before. I'm not going to charge management fees. I said, I'm not going to charge any management fee. I only make money when you make money. See, if you're going to hire some guy that's 60 years old with gray hair, they're going to make sure they have their management fee. They're going to make sure they're taking their family to Hawaii 3 times a year. They've got these habits and things. They like to go on vacation. They're not going to work hard. Guys, I'm young. The whole purpose of this fund is for me to prove to you that I'm a good money manager. And my goal is to make you a ton of money and that you go brag to all your friends how great of an investment you had with Bridger. See, if I was 65 years old, I'm trying to retire. I'm trying to nickel and dime my investors for every single penny. Guys, I don't have that plan. My plan is to make you as much money because I'm young. I can work harder. I can stay up late. I can work weekends. I don't have kids. I don't have a family. This is all I do. And I live in a $300 a month apartment. I drive a car that's paid off. I have no reason to commit fraud. See, if I'm a big time hotshot and I live in a 10,000 square foot house and I've got a big bill, and if things start going south, I might want to steal from my investors and commit fraud. I said, I have no reason to commit fraud. And I leaned into my constraints. See, people your entire life are going to tell you you're too young, you're too old, you're inexperienced, you're fat, you're skinny, you're tall, you're short. People are going to tell you every reason that you can't do it. I have actually a really good friend. Sorry, this is a side story, but she has an online Instagram channel. I think it's over 2 million followers for fitness. Okay. And she looks amazing. She has workouts and stuff. Guess why people follow her? It's not because she just was born with a 6-pack and she's great. The reason people follow her, this is her story, is she had 2 kids and she was feeling a little overweight. She went on a diet. She actually lost 20 pounds, I believe. She lost first off 5 pounds, then another 15 pounds. And she has a picture and she kind of doesn't look that, look that great. She weighed like 110 pounds, but she was still kind of flabby, whatever. She then decided, well, screw that. I'm going to put on 20 pounds of muscle and I'm actually going to work out and like build muscle. And she has a picture of her weighing, I believe it's like 140 pounds. And then when she was with her kids and she was kind of flabby and whatever. And then she has another picture of her weighing 140 pounds, but she's like muscle. And that's her story. And she says, moms, stop trying to diet and calorie count. Instead, put on some muscle, build some muscle, work out. And she has all these workouts. That's why women follow her. See, she leaned into her constraint of having 2 kids. She leaned into that. She leaned into, I lost weight and it didn't work. I still looked kind of just flabby and chubby. And that's what she used. Is that making sense? You guys following along? So lean into your constraints. So with that, let's talk about this. Okay. So what we used to have, this is what Wall Street will tell you how to do. They tell you to hire a lawyer for $35,000, then pitch investors, then hopefully, put some money together. And if it doesn't work, well, shoot, now you spent 35 grand on a fund. And by the way, funds are about 30 to 50 grand to set up. And by the way, if you do the fund launch formula, it's a lot less and your investors will pay you to launch your fund. But this is the typical way Wall Street would tell you to do. So I'm going to tell you guys a new way, a better way to do this. We call it the fund launch formula, 4-step process to launch this. Okay. With that introduction, you guys ready to get into it? I know I've teased you a little bit before, but let's get moving on this. And by the way, Valerie, cut me off. I'll make sure to go quick here. This is the way that we beat out the Harvard grads or people on Wall Street. This is how we do it. So I want to show you a quick example. This is the example my dad gave me. I said, Dad, I don't know how to raise money. No one will believe me. I don't have a track record. And he said, Bridger, he gave me this example. He said, Bridger, I want you to imagine we just found this Lamborghini Aventador in Billings, Montana. Okay. And just go, this is the example. Go with me. I'm going to do the same example to you guys. He says, we found a lady. She's in Billings. She's going into bankruptcy. She needs to sell the car for $50,000 and she's going to sell it Saturday morning for 50 grand. We've already had a mechanic look at this car. We've had everybody look at it. It's 100% legit. Okay. And this is a live call. Today's Thursday, right? Saturday, 50 grand. He says, Bridger, we have a verified buyer that'll buy the car for $200,000 Monday morning in California. It's all verified. He's already checked out. He's already written a letter. If you can get the car to him by Monday morning, he'll buy it for $200,000. Okay. This is an example. Just go with me. He says, Bridger, and I'll tell you the same thing. You can't use any of your own money. You have to raise the money. Could you find $50,000 by Saturday morning? And I kind of sat there. I said, well, maybe. And I kind of thought of it. He goes, no, really, like you're going to make 150 grand this weekend. Could you find $50,000 by Saturday morning? And I kind of thought about former bosses, a college professor, friend from high school, grandma, aunt, uncle, anybody. And I thought, you know what? Yeah. Like I'm going to make 150 grand this weekend. Like dang straight, I'm going to find 50 grand by Saturday. And yeah, I'll stay up late. I'm going to probably be up all night, whatever, but I'm going to figure it out. And he goes, what about anybody else think they could find 50 grand by Saturday? Type a yes in the chat if you could find 50 grand by Saturday. Hard money loan, like a bank line of credit, whatever. Could you guys, anybody find that? I thought, yeah. He goes, Bridger, what about $100,000? Could you find $100,000 by Saturday? And I thought, yeah. Like I'm going to make 100 grand this weekend in college. Like dang straight, I'm finding 100 grand. Like I'm going to talk to anybody I know. I'm going to talk to neighbor. I'm going to knock doors until I find 100 grand. Cause he goes, it's 100% guaranteed. I go, yeah. And he goes, why? And I go, well, cause the scenario is that it's 100% guaranteed. It's a foolproof scenario. You've already played out. And he goes, aha, there it is. And I went, what do you mean? And he goes, 3 minutes ago, you were telling me, oh, I'm too inexperienced. I'm too young. I don't have the track record. And all of a sudden you're telling me you could raise $100,000 in 3 days. Why? Because the deal was so good. It was a foolproof deal. And he goes, it's not a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. Do you think there's a lack of money on the planet right now? Anybody think there's a lack of money on the planet right now? No. Look at the economic. They have printed anywhere from 20 to 40% of all US dollars have been printed in the last 15 months. There is not a lack of money on this planet. There's a lack of resourcefulness. Okay. So, and when you find a great deal like this, money comes to you. And so step number one of the fund launch format is find an incredible deal. And I put deal in quotes. Okay. A deal literally could be a real estate deal. It could be a partner who has great deals. It could be a trading algorithm on Forex. It could be any of those things. All right. So step one, find an incredible deal. Now I'll explain to you why we do that first. Okay. So find an incredible deal. Now at this point, a lot of people, if they find a great real estate deal or the first thing they want to do is go, okay, let's go hire some lawyers. Let's get the thing set up together and let's get going. Hold on. Before you go spend $30,000 on lawyers, okay? Step two, go and frame the deal out. Put together all the numbers, run the model, run the Excel template, and put together a pitch deck, which leads you right into step number three is go and pitch investors. But wait, Bridger, I don't have legal docs set up. I can't pitch an investor. Yes, you can. And this is how, actually, I'll tell you a story. This is how my dad raised their first $100 million fund, was this exact same strategy. Okay. They would go into an investor's office, and let's call it Mrs. Johnson. So Mrs. Johnson is a wealthy woman in the area. She has lots of money. People are always pitching her for deals. Okay. When they would walk in, this guy would just be leaving. This is the Harvard guys. This is what Harvard guys pitch. Okay. This is a cool dude. He's got a pinstripe suit and a dog and whatever. Right. Okay. And their pitch is, we hope to buy properties in the next 18 months. We theorize that we can go out and buy some apartment complexes and buildings. And we theorize that we can go do this. Mrs. Johnson, can you give us $1 million for this? And she says, yeah, maybe I'll look at it. Thank you so much. My dad and his partner would walk into the room. Okay. Right after they'd say hi, but pass it. And they'd walk in and say, hi, Mrs. Johnson. We're not from Harvard. However, we just found this property in Miami, Florida. It appraised for 4.2 million. It appraised for 8.2 million. We can buy it for 4.5 million at the end of the month. Here's our due diligence. Here's our checklist. Here's the entire pitch. You're smart. You've done real estate. You have a real estate friend. Come look at the deal. And they would say, hey, this is a slam dunk deal. You can do any due diligence you want, but we're looking to raise 4.5 million by the end of the month. Can we put you down for $500,000, or can we put you down for $1 million? He told me 9 times out of 10, they would beat out the Harvard guys because they pitched the deal over the degree. They led with a strong deal. The Harvard guys would lead with, oh, we're so smart, we're sophisticated. They would lead with the deal. Again, step one, leading with the deal. And this is how they went out and raised over $100 million. Now, at this point, you're going to go in soft pitch investors. And what you'll say is, hi, Mrs. Johnson, hey, we're working on legal docs. Our legal docs are not done yet. They'll be done in a few weeks. But if everything checks out, if it all works out and your due diligence, can we put you down for a $500,000 commitment? And it's a easier yes to say, yeah, you know what? If everything checks out, come back to me with all your stuff. And yeah, if it all checks out, you know what? Put me down for a $500,000 commitment, because the deal is tangible. The deal is there. Once you get enough soft commitments for your deal or project or fund, then and only then you can move on to step 4, which is doing your legal docs. Then and only then go and hire the lawyers, spend the 30 grand, set up the fund. And guess what? You get to reimburse yourself on the 30 grand legal documents from the fund. It's a reimbursable expense. Anybody following along so far? Say aye if you're following along so far. Is that making a little bit of sense? Now, if you're back here and investors don't like it, let's say you pitch like 10 investors and just no one likes it. Well, guess what? You didn't waste any money. All you wasted was a little bit of time. See, the Harvard guys, what they do literally the exact opposite. Step 1, they go set up legal docs. Step 2, they frame it out, they pitch investors. And then step 3, then they go look for the properties and the investments. It's the exact opposite. And guess what? If they can't find the investors or properties, they're stuck with a $30,000 legal bill. You guys following along? Like, this is how entrepreneurs launch funds. Find that great deal, frame it out. Number 3, pitch investors. And then and only then, when you get those soft commits, then and only then, go and set up your legal docs. Is that making a little bit of sense? You guys following along? Boom, baby. Hopefully that clears things up. So I mentioned this before, lawyers bill by the hour. So wait, Bridger, but still 30 grand sounds a lot for legal docs, right? It's something my dad taught me. It's something we do. Okay. Lawyers, and my brother's a lawyer. He's going to come on in just a second. Lawyers bill by the hour, right? Lawyers love to bill by the hour. They bill $300, $500, $1,000 an hour. And so this is what my dad taught me. Take old legal documents, edit them, do the work yourself, and then take it to a lawyer. My first fund that we set up cost me about $4,000 to set up. My most recent fund, $50 million fund, cost me about $10,000 to set up. Because when I walk into a lawyer's office, I walk in, I go, hey, I want XYZ with a drink and a side of fries. Most people walk in and go, can you teach me about funds? Can you help me about funds? I know what I want in a fund. And so that saves you tons of money on documents. Okay. This is how you build your track record. I mentioned this earlier. Okay. I already mentioned Brett. This is actually Brett Ma, the guy I mentioned earlier. I'll go through quickly, but this is what we talked about before. The syndication loop. If you don't have a track record, number 1, leverage other people's, or number 2, build it through syndication loops. And then and only then you can scale to the fund model here. And this is where you can buy all these deals. I mentioned this earlier with the syndication loop, where you can keep scaling and building out your deals. Now, this might feel overwhelming. This might feel like a lot. The last thing I want to leave you guys with, and we'll do Q&A here, okay? This is where you make the tons of money. I love this gift. Let him go. There he is. There you go. All right, last thing I want to leave you guys with. And by the way, Brent did his first deal 2 weeks after joining. So this is what I want to leave you with. If you can't do it, partner with someone who does. No one does this alone. No one. And so there are 3 main circles and roles in a fund. Okay. On the left here, you see expert investor. The expert investor is the person that's done, let's say, real estate for the last 10 years. And they're smart. They know how real estate works, or they're a great trader, all that kind of stuff. Typically, those people who are just great investors and great people, they have no clue how to run a fund and how to raise money. Okay, which is the other 2 pieces. The middle circle is, I call it fund manager. That person, as I'm pretty good at this, of the compliance inside of a fund, legal docs, compliance, setting up the entity, structuring, all that kind of stuff, paying out investors, distributions, capital calls, the actual mechanics of running a fund, all is in that middle circle. And then on the right, this is your money raising circle. These are the people that are just natural born salesmen. They're just well-connected people. They already have connections with billionaires, all that kind of stuff. Okay. These are these people. So it's build out your team. If you're feeling like, Bridger, I don't know anyone with money, that's okay. It's not the how, it's the who. It's not how do I find money? It's who do I find that already has money? Because the beautiful thing about funds is when you launch a fund, people want to be involved with you. They want to partner with you. They want to connect with you. Because a lot of people have a dream of running a fund. Okay. It's one of the most beautiful, best secrets on the planet is when you launch a fund, people want to work with you. They're attracted to you. They want to be involved with you. It's not the how, it's the who. Partner with smart people and fill out, maybe grab, and eventually you don't have to have 3 people. You could do 2 of the 3. You could by yourself could do all 3 if you like. Eventually though, you'll be a slice of one of those 3 people as well. So, boom, baby. There we go. I know Valerie's probably stressing out of time here. I'll let her go and we can ask questions here. I know I went through a lot of stuff there, but let's talk through this a little bit about funds, structure, and all that kind of stuff. But that's what I'll leave you with is funds are incredible. They're one of the most amazing vehicles on the planet. So Valerie, with that, let's open it up for questions, I think, or whatever you got on the agenda.
Yes, we got a question here. So let me read it for you. Bridger, that was awesome. Really, really
sure
good.
Was.
Good. That was really great.
Let's give a hand.
Yes, let's give Bridger.
Well, thank you guys. This has been awesome. This has been
Thumbs
sweet.
up.
Yeah.
So I have a question right here in the chat. Let me read it. How do you convince people to invest in your fund without the track record? Normally, people like the idea of their investment backed by an asset they can acquire in case we don't deliver.
So great question. A few things to unpack there. So number 1, building a track record. I mentioned earlier, about the Lamborghini example just a minute ago, right? Lamborghini example is a great example to get over the hump. Because guess what? In that example, if someone brought you that deal and you looked through it, did all your due diligence, you don't care if that person is Bridger and a 22-year-old college kid or a Harvard Ivy League grad. I mean, yes, you want to make sure they're not going to commit fraud and things like that, but you'll look, if you could look at the deal and back to the second part of the question, they like to invest in the asset, right? So it helps when you have a good asset behind you. Now the fund is going to be backed by assets anyway. So if those, in a real estate funds, for instance, the fund is backing all those assets as well. Now that is a good question though. Bridger, you don't have a tracker, you're trying to start out. That's okay. Partner, if you feel like you need a tracker or you need that Harvard degree or you need whatever, partner with someone who has it. See, people always talk about OPM, right? Other people's money, right? And this is, by the way, funds are the ultimate OPM strategy, other people's money strategy. We rarely talk about OPE, other people's experiences. Leverage other people's experiences. So if you're sitting there now, I'm a living proof that you don't need a crazy track record to get started. Yes, you need to show competence. Yes, you need to show that you understand what you're doing. Yes, you need to let investors look at the deal and look into that. But as far as like 20 plus years of Ivy League experience, I'm living proof that you don't need that. And a lot of our people in our groups are living proof. But if you're sitting there like, man, I need that, go partner with someone who has it. I can't tell you how many people I have met that are Ivy League grads or have worked on Wall Street that come to me, Bridger, I want to partner with you on a fund. Can we do a fund together? I'm dying to do a fund. I just don't know where to start. There are plenty of those track record in quotes, people looking to partner with a great person like you that understands these circles right here, the fund management piece or the money raising piece or the expert investor piece. That's what I would say there. It's a great question, but that's what I would say is twofold. Find great deals. And then number two, leverage other people's experiences. It's a good question.
Awesome. So we got one more question here.
Yeah.
So what is the name of your podcast?
So yeah, the name of our stuff is Investment Fund Secrets. Okay. Investment Fund Secrets. I can even drop it in the chat here. Oh, by the way, I mentioned we have a free gift for everybody if you guys want it. So if you guys want it, you go to, I'll just type it in here, investmentfundsecrets.com/free gift. Okay. Let me know if that works. Maybe I got to put www in there. We put together a whole free course on funds. Let's see if this works. Is that working? Maybe. Try that out. I typed in the chat there, but investmentfundsecrets.com/free gift. The name of our podcast is Investment Fund Secrets. And you can, if you go to investmentfundsecrets.com in general, you'll see we have a YouTube channel, a podcast, Instagram, TikTok. We got all that, and blog. If you guys want to read there, we're pretty much the only people online putting out content on funds. And so you can go check it out there. The free gift is actually an entire course on funds, about 30 videos. We have a downloadable document, all that kind of stuff. All you do is you put in your email, you opt in, and thank you, Val, is that Vinky? Awesome. Thank you for putting in like a hyperlink actually that works. Mine hyperlink didn't work, but we're pretty much the only people online teaching funds. And the reason we do it is I believe more people should be starting funds. More people should be thinking about getting in this game. And there are so many unique funds. It's insane. We have solar farm funds, almond farms. We have people they're buying scripts on Hollywood and selling them to HBO. We have people doing, opportunity zones. I mean, there's just crazy funds out there. It's really cool to be a part of.
Awesome. So I got one more question right here.
Yeah.
So what did you do with your first fund of 49,000?
So we were doing, I mentioned earlier, loans. We were doing these small loans. They were about $1,000 to maybe $20,000 loans at the most. At the beginning, we were doing smaller ones, but we kind of grew. At the beginning, it was like $1,000 to $5,000 loans. They were debt consolidation loans. We were helping people consolidate debt to help them get better credit scores, get better credit from other places. We would give them a loan of, let's call it $5,000. They would pay us back within 4 to 6 weeks. And so that's why we got such a high return. I mentioned we got a 64% return on that first fund because we could turn our money so quickly. And we were every month we were rolling our money into new loans as well. So that's what we did on those first two funds. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. One more.
Yeah.
If I decided today, had a good deal and had people that can invest, how quickly can I get the fund set up? What's my timeline?
Yeah, Eric, great question. So we actually I'll just tell you a quick story. We had a guy join our group in June. And we helped him, and and he was ready to go though. He had, just like you said, their fund was launched and they had 35 million raised in 4 weeks. So pretty quick. That's a decent capital raise and a decent setup now I would say that's probably as fast as you could go as far as the entire fund setup and everything and filing. And by the way, my brother John's coming on in a second. He probably answer that question better about the legalities of like filing for your fund. But that's, about 4 weeks is crazy. And by the way, my brother's coming on in a second. Dude is amazing. He's got the best hair you're ever going to see in your life. But really smart. He's launched, helped set up, I don't know how many dozens of funds, and now runs 2 funds himself. Really impressive dude. Chief compliance officer to $800 or $700 million fund, real estate fund. They're $700 million of real estate they were doing, primarily multifamily. So anyways, you guys are in for a treat. He's coming on in a second. So.
Okay. I have one more question.
Yeah.
So you talk about the fund launch formula. You find a deal, frame the deal, pitch it to investors, and then you do the deal. So are you able to create the fund first before having a deal?
Yes. So yes, you can. So I mentioned the fund launch format. It's a lean way to launch a fund. That's a very lean way to go about it, because you're launching again, let's call it $30,000. Investors are paying you to build a fund for them in the fund launch formula, where you do the legal documents last. They are telling you, we want this type of fund. Because I've been a part of last year, 2 funds that were going to launch. We went out and pitched investors. We thought we had a great idea, and it just kind of flopped. Nobody wanted to invest in this. I was so grateful we didn't spend 30 grand both times to set up the fund. Okay. Now, after that's to initially launch your fund. Now, once you're up and running and going, no, you can set up the fund first. 100%. Yeah, you can spend the 30 grand, set up the fund, then go find deals, then put the money in. You can do that. I would just say it's a little bit riskier of a way to go about it, because you haven't guaranteed that investors will like the product that you're offering them. But 100% you can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That was amazing and incredible, Bridger.
I see one question here just on liquidity.
Oh, yes.
I saw someone put it. Sorry, just real quick. Liquidity for funds, you get to decide. I mentioned before, you have the Bible. That's the best part about funds. You can decide. So if your fund wants to provide liquidity where people maybe they can pull their money out in 6 weeks, great. You write that into your documents. If you don't want them to have liquidity, they'll call it a close-ended fund, where their money's locked up for 5 or 6 years. You write that into your documents. Okay. That's it. So you decide.
Brother.
Sorry to cut you off there, but yeah. Thanks,
So
Michael.
anybody else who has a question for
Yeah,
Bridger?
unmute yourself. If you have a
Hey,
question.
Bridger, I do. If we went back to Michael's the first part of his question, what kind of returns are typically being offered as far as like real estate funds go? I was curious on that part.
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, it's your risk adjusted rate of return. So how much risk are you providing for your return? On the low end, I see some, fixed income real estate funds that are maybe 8%, 10% is what they're, that's I would say a low end, very safe, conservative. These are just cash flow, fixed income. An average real estate fund, I know you're asking for averages. I would say it's usually 17, 18% is what I see as kind of an IRR they're targeting. Now there's some higher risk funds, that are doing, I would say even higher risk, but they're doing different strategies, and they'll go up to maybe 22%. But again, I'll say this too. We actually had a fund manager on that managed $1 billion portfolio. He said the biggest, most crucial thing about running a fund is managing investors' expectations. He goes, if you promise an investor 30% and you get them a 28, they're going to be pissed. They're going to hate you, think you're the biggest idiot in the planet. If you promise a 19 and you get them a 28, they're going to sing praises forever and say, man, you're the greatest fund manager of all time. It's all about expectations. So what I've seen with a lot of funds, they will say, hey, investor, we are targeting a 15 IRR for our investors. And that's what they'll tell investors. That's what they'll publish. Internally, they're targeting actually like a 22 to 25. That's what they're actually going for, but they'll tell investors we're going for a 15. under promise, over deliver type of a thing. So, but yeah, back to your question. That's what I would say. But average is about 7. Now I would say 15 to 17 is average real estate fund that I see.
Awesome. You
Good
got
question.
that, Eric? Anything else? Anybody else who has questions?
I see 2 in the chat here. Is the payout structured like a waterfall? 100%. Yeah, I was going to go through that. We didn't have time, but maybe John will talk about this, but waterfall structure where you have a pref, a catch up, carried interest, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, typically through a waterfall. I won't open up that. I know that'll take about 5 minutes to explain, but yeah, that's what it is there. So are there any resources to find all private equity funds who are interested into partnership? A little bit hard sometimes to find them. We actually have so for some of our groups, we pay for a software called PitchBook that helps connect with private equity firms as well, looking for partnerships. So,
hey, a quick question regarding depreciation passing. Like, usually multifamily, if it is a single deal, usually we'll get the K1s with a negative value. Okay, so is it possible in the fund structure as well?
For depreciation, you said?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So the depreciation, especially in real estate, just gets passed through on a K1 to a limited partner.
Yes.
Same thing. Yep. So yeah, it's great. And like I'm invested in two real estate funds. I'm a limited partner. I've had losses for the past 3 years, like a loss, like on my K1, I've had losses of 30 grand, a loss of 25 grand on both of them for 3 years, which is great. And then, however, though, they'll sell the properties and they'll have a big K1, when they sell. But yeah, depreciation is passed through on real estate funds.
Mm-hmm.
You'll do what's called a cost segregation analysis on it, and that's how you'll pass through depreciation.
Right.
Good question.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Hey, Bridger. Great stuff. This is Harsh. I have a question about the payout. Is there any other models other than the waterfall that can be used for with these funds?
Yeah, 100%. You can decide. That's the great thing about funds. You can decide what you want to do. So whatever your investors agree to, typically a waterfall, I'll share my screen on this for a second. Do we have a second, Valerie, or no? Are we on time?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Let me know if, there we go. Perfect. So on the water, so for people that just understand what we're talking about, I'll do this quickly. But on a waterfall structure, let's just say this is 0 IRR, and an IRR just stands for internal rate of return. Let's say this is, or just call it returns, 10%, 20%. Typical fund that we'll see is 8% pref, 8% pref. Let me change colors here. There's not too much red. First, and what this will mean is a preferential rate of return. First 8% goes to the investors. So if this year we only got a 7%, let's say right here, 7%, all 7% would go to the investor. Okay. So first 8% goes to the investor. In my fund, what we did is the next 2%, the 9th and 10th percentile went to the managers, the general partner, to me. So 9th and 10th percentile. And then above there, we split 80-20, 80% to the investors, 20% to the general partner. And so from the 10th percentile to, till the 20th, we did 80-20. And then what we did, just to give you an idea of, you're asking about tweaking things, we can talk, if you have follow-up questions, we talk more. What we did is if our fund got above a 20%, we would then split 50-50. So we would split 50-50. So if I got above a 20%, I would start making more money. It's kind of a bonus round for me. Okay. Here, 50% to the investors, 50% to me. Now I've seen some groups, and then also if you wanted to, you could charge a 2%. A lot of times you have a 2% management fee. So if you ever hear of a 2 and 20 fund, what that means is 2% management fee and 20% carried interest. This is called carried interest. And, that's how much you're charging. Now, I've seen some funds that do 3% management fees, or they do a 70-30, or they do a 6% pref, or they do a 50-50, or they cap their investors. Hey, investor, once you make an 18% return, you're paid out 100%, you're done, and we take the rest. And so actually one of my dad's funds, they did, this is how they did it. They did, investors, they were doing a hard money lending fund. The investors got the first, I believe it was 18%. First 18% of all returns went to investors. Okay. So if this was 0%, and let's call this 10%, and this was 20 here. First 18% all went to investors. Anything above 18, they kept as fund managers. Okay. And so they would do above would be the managers. Now, so investors were, this is great. This is exciting. These guys don't, they had a 0% fee, management fee. They were doing hard money loans that would last like 3 weeks. So let's just an example real quick. Let's say a hard money loan made them 10% in a month, right? Well, if you annualize that, which is an IRR is an annualized number, that's 120%. So their investors would take the first 18% and the next 102% would go to the fund managers. So anyways, that gives you a few examples. I don't know if you have other follow-up questions, but does that clear things up a little bit?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, you can decide what you want to do with payout structures. That's more what's standard, but anyways, you can decide. All right, Val, are we ready to move on?
Yes. Yes. Would you like to do the honor of introducing the equally handsome
brother of yours?
Yes. So I kind of already gave an intro here. I see John. Oh, there he is. Perfect. Yeah. So I finished up. By the way, we'll drop that link one more time for you guys. If you want to connect, whatever, shoot me a DM on Instagram. It's a pretty easy way to find me. If you want to learn more, get that free gift or whatever, just go there. But